Hello, everyone. Hope you're having a fantastic day. My name is Kmart. I want to talk about some basketball, and today we are going to be talking about the Los Angeles Lakers and the couple of problems that they are currently having at this point in the season. So, um, let's just sort of get started with it right away. We're about halfway through the season, and the Lakers are not in a great position, fighting to, at this point, really stay around the 500 mark in terms of their win-loss record. They were 14-9 at the time that they won the first in-season tournament. Since then, they've gone something like 10-16. So, not in a great spot. They're 10th in offensive rating, 13th in defensive rating. So, really not where they want to be. So, in terms of problems for this roster, first and foremost, the Lakers sort of need a reliable third option here. Right? LeBron and Anthony Davis are still huge for the Lakers. They're combining to score something like 50 points, averaging about 20 rebounds, double-digit assists. They're both shooting over 50% from the field. So, those two, at least, are still playing incredibly well, but they need help. Right? If it's just down to LeBron and AD to go out and win you games all by themselves, that's really not going to work. So, in terms of a third option for the Lakers, who are we really looking at here? The primary candidate would be DAngelo Russell, but there have obviously been some issues to this point in the season, so much so that he is at the center of a lot of trade rumors for the Lakers. In terms of his ability as a playmaker, that's still kind of there. He's averaging around 6 assists per game, but his scoring was wildly inconsistent for much of the season, and his defense is less than ideal, is probably the most polite way to say it. But in terms of the scoring output, that is something that Russell has attempted to start sort of fixing in recent times. Through the first 36 games of the season, he had scored 20 points or more in just 8 games. Over the most recent 8 games, though, he's hit 20 or more points in 7 of those 8 games. So he is starting to sort of pick things up in terms of offensive output. The defense is still maybe not where you would like it to be, but we are starting to see some steps towards DAngelo Russell, at least on the offensive end, becoming that third player, but we need to see it over a more expanded amount of time, and we need to see if it actually helps the Lakers win any games, because they're still sort of struggling to get themselves over the 500 mark at this point, even with Russell starting to score a little bit more. So if it's not going to be DAngelo Russell in terms of that third, then the other guy you would maybe look at is someone like Austin Reeves, but he's really not doing a crazy amount for the Lakers either. He is scoring more than he did last season in terms of just pure points per game average, but his field goal percentage and his 3-point percentage are both down by around 5% each, and his defense is maybe not quite as strong as it could be either. So the Lakers at the moment don't really have a clear third guy to stand alongside LeBron and AD. Maybe someone like Russell or Reeves could step up into that spot, but as of right now, we haven't seen that from them this season. So, if they're not going to get a sort of third, I hesitate to say star, but we'll use that phrase, then you would look to the bench for the Lakers here. There's plenty of teams in the league that rely upon a duo with no definitive sort of third guy by leaning heavily on a stable bench unit instead. The role players effectively, collectively play that role, but the Lakers don't really have that either. A lot of the guys who we thought were going to be impact players have missed a lot of time this season. Gabe Vincent has missed something like 40 games. Cam Reddish has missed double-digit games. Rui Hachimura's missed 14 or 15, and Jared Vanderbilt has missed more than 20 games this season. So those guys not being available has forced the Lakers to go further into their bench unit than they would prefer, and that's taken a toll on the consistency of that unit. Even when some of those guys have come back, though, it's taking them some time to get into the swing of things, and their performance still is not ideal. If you look at the Lakers in terms of bench scoring, they are hovering at around 20th in the league in bench points. And unlike teams like the Nuggets, the Celtics, teams like that, the reason for their bench points being so low is not because the starters are just scoring so many points that it doesn't matter, right? That is what some of the elite teams in the league, like I said, Boston and Denver, are doing. The bench doesn't score a lot of points, but their starters are in the top 5, top 6 in terms of scoring themselves. That's not really going the Lakers' way. They're 14th in total points. Their starters are outside the top 10 in terms of scoring as a unit last I checked, so they do just kind of struggle off the bench in general, which kind of leads into the third offensive point here for the Lakers, which is this team just does not shoot threes. They just don't. They almost categorically refuse to do so. They are 28th in the league in terms of three-pointers made on average. They are dead last, 30th in the league in terms of three-point attempts per game. And in terms of percentage, well, they're at least in the top 20. They're 19th in the league in three-point percentage. But again, that percentage in the context of making the 28th most three-pointers and shooting the 30th most, which again is dead last, that percentage doesn't matter, right? Yeah, you're 19th. That's not as bad as it could be, but you're also taking fewer three-point shots per game than any other team in the league. So that is a problem, right? Because if you aren't consistently sort of having any sort of perimeter threat, then you need to be relying on your interior offense. And on that front, the Lakers are in a good spot. If you take a look at their field goal percentages, they're pretty damn good. They're in the top 10. Just looking at percentages for 2-point field goals, they're even further up. I think they're somewhere in the top 5. But they're not able to play at a fast enough pace to take so many 2-point shots that it nullifies not taking any threes. And their defense isn't good enough to hold their opponents to a low enough point total to make that strategy work either, right? There is something to be said for that. The Lakers could potentially get away with not making any three-pointers if their defense was so good that their opponents didn't really get that three-point game working in their favor either. But that leads us into the final point here in terms of the Lakers' problems, which is their defense has regressed massively, right? Compared to where they were in their championship season or even last season in the playoffs when they made that push to the Western Conference Finals. They were considered an elite defensive team. That's gone, right? They're 13th in the league in defensive rating. Last I checked, as of recording. In terms of points allowed, they're 19th in the league. They're 20th in rebounds allowed, 21st in three-point percentage against, and 15th in field goal percentage against. So they're not really stopping anybody. They're not shutting down opposing offenses. Anthony Davis is still a force inside, right? He's still averaging like 2 blocks per game and some change. But the perimeter defense here for the Lakers is absolutely atrocious. As I mentioned just a while ago, they're 21st in terms of three-point percentage against among all the teams in the league. But it's even worse than that. They allow the 28th most three-point attempts per game, and they allow the most three-pointers made against them. So you remember when I was talking about how the Lakers don't shoot any threes, that could work if the defense was taking the three-point game away from their opponents too. It's the exact opposite. The Lakers defense is allowing more three-pointers than any other defense in the league at the same time that they're not making any three-pointers themselves. So it is unbelievably difficult to win games when you can't make any threes, but you also allow your opponents to just absolutely wreak havoc from beyond the arc like the Lakers do. So they've got defensive problems, they've got offensive problems. How do the Lakers fix this? I don't really know. The most ideal and therefore probably least likely scenario is that this just fixes itself, right? LeBron and Anthony Davis continue to play at the level they're at, but the team around them sort of elevates their game. one or both of DAngelo Russell and Austin Reeves step up if they're not traded and become that sort of reliable third option alongside LeBron and AD. The bench unit gets healthy and somehow finds their stride, right? Someone on the team starts shooting and making enough threes to matter, and they get back to being an elite defensive unit like they were when they made sort of deep playoff runs here. For all of those things to just happen because the team sort of rallies or has the right sort of internal motivations would be great, but again, it seems unbelievably unlikely to occur. The more likely scenario is that the Lakers try to change things up via a trade or a coaching change or something of that nature, but that's not a guaranteed solution either, right? If you replace Darvin Ham, who knows if who you bring in is going to be better or if they have any effect. And if you do look to make a trade for some sort of significant player, I don't think that they can address every single one of the issues that I laid out here, right? Maybe you can get a guy who's that reliable third scoring option, right? And maybe you can get a guy who can score and who can score enough from the outside to fix the team's three-point issues as well. But if you do that, that player doesn't solve the bench issue. In fact, the bench probably gets weaker considering the guys who would need to be moved to make that trade happen. And I don't know if that player would fix the defensive issues here either. It feels like of the four issues I pointed out, the Lakers could trade for someone who could fix or help 2, maybe 3 of those points, but almost certainly not all 4. If there is a guy out there who can somehow score enough to matter, shoot enough threes to help bolster the defensive sort of effort of this team and also take pressure off the bench, that guy would probably cost a lot more than what the Lakers currently want to get rid of to make that trade happen, because that would be an absolute superstar player. So I don't know. The Lakers have issues that are not going to be easily solved, but that's all I've got. So feel free to let me know what you think. Do you believe that someone like DAngelo Russell or Austin Reeves can step up to become that third option to help the team? Do you think that the Lakers bench unit could sort of mount a comeback here? If you do, who's the guy off the bench who sort of fixes it? Is it Rui? Is it Jared Vanderbilt? What do you think? If the team is going to make a big trade for a player, who do you think they can or should target? And do you think that that incoming player would be enough to really change anything here? But whatever your thoughts are, please feel free to share them. But other than that, thank you all so much for watching, and I will talk to you later.